Hello and welcome back to the Know. I'm Bruce Greene.
I'm Blaine Gibson.
Holy shit, Battlefront is a real game.
Whoa.
And we saw it. It's a video game, so who gives a shit about jokes? Let's get right to it.
Yes. So we got to see the Star Wars Celebration. You can be jealous. It makes us strong, your anger and your hatred.
We can feel it.
Yes.
First off, the pre-alpha game was running on a PlayStation 4, and it looks really similar to the trailer you've already seen.
At least you better have already seen it because it's Star Wars, so put the porn down for like half a minute.
They can't do that. They're masturbating pretty much all the time.
Well, I was masturbating in Star Wars.
That's true. The HUD looked pretty standard. Map on the bottom left looks similar to the Halo. Grenades, shield generator, and primary weapon on the bottom right. One cool note, blasters did not have ammo, but a heat gauge, right? It was like a cooldown type of thing?
So they shot, it got red and red. I don't know if it's going to overheat once it gets to that point.
Probably, yeah.
You can switch from third person to first person, kind of like in classic Battlefront.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked really, really smooth. They just kind of did it, back and forth, no problem.
No cover system to note it.
Oh yeah, that's true. On to specifics, we saw a clip of the gameplay that took place on Endor. For the first segment, the Imperials had to protect an AT-AT as it marched across the map while the Rebels had to bring it down. And you talked about how there was actually an AT-AT on Endor, right?
Yeah, well, that was in the re-release.
Yeah,
it was
they
in like a
showed
super wide shot.
Very briefly, right?
They like dubbed it in.
It's not canon, move on!
Well, it kind of is.
But think of the AT-AT kind of like a rush game mode from Battlefield. It's not straight team deathmatch, but one team has to accomplish objectives quickly while the other team has to slow them down. So theoretically, one team accomplishes all their objectives, they swap.
Right, exactly. From the looks of it, the only way to hurt the AT-AT was to call in a Y-wing airstrike from these little stations around the map. It sort of reminded us of Battlefield 2142, where you had to capture missile silos to attack the opponent's mothership things or like floating in the sky. Sort of a weird game mode, but I think it's a combination of Rush and 2142.
Yeah, and as you'd expect from Battlefront, the map contained AT-STs and speeder bikes that players could drive around. Sadly, it looked like the AT-AT was kind of automated, kind of scripted.
Yeah, it did.
And then once the Rebels blew up the AT-AT, the Rebels then swarmed inside the shield protector generator, which led to...
the biggest reveal, I think, in the gameplay, I'm going to let Lawrence do it.
It was Darth Vader! Holy shit!
We knew we'd see Darth Vader.
We're in both cameras. I can see.
We are in both cameras. That's
Just now
absolutely.
realize that.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
Well, so just like classic Battlefront, you will have playable hero units.
Yeah.
So, in the previous series, once you got enough kills, you could choose to spawn in as a Jedi, which would make you a little more powerful. You'd have a lightsaber and force powers.
Yep.
You can do that this time, but we're not quite sure how it works. Is it by kills or map objectives?
We don't know.
What we
They
do
don't
know
really
is
say.
Vader was fucking OP as shit, which is awesome.
He was. He looked impossible because every time he took a shot, he reflected it.
Yeah, he just walked up, and he looked big, too. He was tall.
Yeah. Oh, then he also force choked a guy and like threw him against the wall. That was cool too.
The developers told us all these hero units are meant to lead the charge in battle, and they're supposed to be the tip of the lightsaber.
Right.
Just the tip?
Good one. Gameplay demo ends with Vader killing the shit out of the poor rebel soldier that you've been playing as.
You will be missed, RIP.
Yes.
In terms of graphics, the gameplay looked a little more aliased than the game engine footage you see here in the trailer, but it is just a pre-alpha on the PS4.
Looked pretty good.
Yeah, Lawrence, I mean, what are typically graphics in these games?
Well, since it's pre-alpha, it's going to be a little rough.
Yeah.
Graphics and stability and frame rate performance, those are all basically the last thing that go into any game. So we expect it to run a little choppy. From the sounds of it, it actually ran pretty well.
It did.
Which I think says a lot of good things about the game coming out this fall.
Yeah, so one of our big questions was, is this Battlefield reskinned to be Battlefront?
Right, that was my big problem. I was like worried that that's what DICE was doing.
Yeah.
The answer is absolutely not.
No.
At least when it comes to the models. Lucas gave DICE complete access to the Lucas archives so they could take three-dimensional photos of everything, costumes, props, vehicles, etc. They called it like photogrammetry or whatever it was.
They made some fake term, but they also had like the title, the entire library of just like sound effects and music and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right, they did.
And then they also went to different locations like Hoth, Endor, and they took photos there for references. So it looked really good.
Yeah, it did. That's a rundown of the demo we saw, but we also got some juicy details about other content that will be in the game. Spoiler alert!
Yeah.
Actual spoilers coming up, we think. You may
Spoilers for the game or for the movie?
Both.
For both, yes.
Yeah, both.
So please, if you don't just mute it for a second, and then I'll come back and say it's no more.
We'll wave you when you need to come back in.
We'll wave it back in. Lawrence, why don't you read the spoilers?
So I was really excited about this. So while Battlefront will stick close to the classic trilogy, which is episodes 4 through 6, it apparently will have content that takes place after Return of the Jedi that links it to episode 7. So you probably saw in the second teaser that came out, there were all these like derelict ships in the background of Jakku. Turns out that you'll be able to play that battle in Battlefront. Yes. It'll be DLC, so the Battle of Jakku will happen, and then that is apparently the big decisive battle that ended that war.
Right.
So in Return of the Jedi, they basically they killed the second Death Star and they killed the Emperor, but they didn't actually kill the majority of the Imperial fleet.
Right.
Apparently that happened at the Battle of Jakku, and that's what we'll be able to play. which is fucking awesome.
No, it really is really cool. And we were kind of speculating in terms of like evolution while you're playing the Battle of Jakku. Maybe like a Star Destroyer will come down and like crash into the sand. While
Yeah,
you're
there's a
fighting.
lot of potential for some cool shit to happen there. I was also speculating too, because Jakku is supposed to be taking place after Endor, so Darth Vader's dead. I'm wondering who the hero unit's going to be, because if they don't have Vader
for
around,
Jakku.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, it could be Han Solo and Millennium Falcon.
For the
Fighting
rebels, and I
fighting
guess
on Jakku,
yeah.
I don't know who the That's really cool. All right, I'm sorry. Jakku's not the only post-Jedi map either. They also told us about Sullust, a volcanic planet featuring that one droopy cheek dude that laughs kind of funny. He goes,
Neon Nub.
Neon Numb is his name. That's true.
All together now.
And that's the end of the end of the spoilers.
back.
We're back. Yeah, we're good now. That about wraps it up for what we know for sure. But based on that, we can speculate for days about what might be in the final game.
Let's do it!
All right, go ahead.
Speculation.
Here we go.
So we know Battlefront is focusing on the original trilogy, and if we're assuming that every map will play like the one we saw demoed, what could that mean? Let's go through the big Holy Trinity battles and imagine what they could look like.
Lawrence, take it.
So the Battle of Yavin 4 at the end of episode 4. The problem with this one is it's entirely in space, or at least has to be.
That's true.
But we could think maybe there's a dogfighting phase as you're approaching the Death Star, then you fight on the surface of the Death Star, and maybe players take place of like little turrets as they're shooting at all the little X-Wings flying around.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then obviously a trench run part. The weird part about that is like once you make that into a video game, how do you prevent players from just like fucking it all up and not playing it right?
I don't know. I mean,
I played a lot of mod maps back in the day, and people never did it right.
Yeah, that's
Play along, role play a little bit.
There's also the Battle of Hoth. You fight to delay the Imperials out in the field, then inside the shield generator, then in space as you try to run the Imperial blockade. That one's pretty cut and dry, I think.
Yeah, there also could be Tatooine, so maybe a ground fight that's around Jabba's Barge, somewhere
that's
around
right.
that time. And then the Battle of Endor, of course, which we've already seen that one.
We saw that one as well. And what else? There actually aren't that many large-scale battles in the original trilogy, 4 to 6, meaning we may play battles that weren't in the movies, or maybe between the movies.
Yeah,
Who
so
knows?
obviously with the Battle of Jakku, the game will explore timelines that follow Return of the Jedi, but predate Force Awakens.
Yeah, it looks like the Battle of Jakku might connect the two, but we're not sure.
Yeah.
Since we know hero units are in the game, we can also guess which units will appear in what maps. Lawrence, why don't you take these?
So on Endor, we already know Darth Vader's a hero unit there.
Yep.
Skipping back to episode 4, we can just guess that Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader will be the appropriate hero units on each side of that battle.
Yep.
On Hoth, you could have Han, Luke, and Vader, basically everybody.
Oh, that's true.
Tatooine, you could play as Boba Fett.
Actually, we did see Boba Fett.
We
on
saw him
Tatooine.
flying around a
Very-
desert planet, but I wasn't sure if it was Tatooine or Jakku.
Yeah, well, I would say Tatooine because of Jakku, he'd technically be dead because of Sarlacc.
Nerds! Han Solo could be in the Millennium Falcon during the Battle of Jakku as well. He could be the last hero. Again, this is all speculation.
So one big question-
Orlando Calrissian.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
fuck,
Lando.
That'd be awesome.
There might be a Battle of Bespin that they kind of interject as well.
Colt 44.
I guess they'd have to just make it up. There was never really fighting it. Never really fighting in Bespin.
One big question left is, will there be space battles? The map we saw did have aircraft, but they were similar to jets in Battlefield. So basically, you could fly around the map, but you couldn't fly into space or anything.
Right, so it's all land-based, and like you said, Lawrence, it's all kind of inside a box.
Right.
Which makes sense. That's the Battlefield formula, so it kind of makes sense they would port it to Star Wars. Maybe there'll be galaxy or space battles as DLC.
I hope.
We're not sure.
So the release date is November 17th. That's about 1 month before the movie, which would be a great window to hit.
Absolutely.
Also, free DLC called the Battle of Jakku, which we mentioned. If you pre-order Battlefront, you'll get it December 1st.
That's true.
For the pre-orders, and then everyone else will get it December 8th. And they did mention that was free.
Yeah, no, it's
for
free to everybody. So and you get it a week early if you pre-order the game, which it looks like I would probably already be doing.
Yeah, and they mentioned too, it is a good year to be Star Wars fan.
It really is a good. I mean, like
December specifically. Good
And
month.
unfortunately, this episode is brought to you by the 3 biggest Star Wars fans that we have at Funhouse and Rooster Teeth: Blaine, Bruce, and Lawrence. So we are very biased.
Star Wars!
Joel,
My
don't.
chopped liver?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
are
are.
chopped. You're not a big Star Wars fan.
I'm not. Lawrence, how many Expanded Universe books have you read?
None!
None.
Lawrence was saying earlier he wasn't that big of a fan.
He said it when you weren't even in the office. I'm a bigger fucking fan than Lawrence, and I'm sitting here running the prompter. Bullshit, I say.
I'll wait for him to finish. So, Joel, I've actually read the novelizations, multiple novelizations of all the original
Not
trilogy
Expanded
movies.
Universe.
Hold on. I've got a question. What's the name of Han Solo's blaster? Lawrence.
I actually don't know.
Joel.
The Sister Weeper.
Oh my.
DL44
It's a
blaster.
DL44 blaster.
Bitches.
You fucking nerd. Oh yeah, we're the nerds.
We
Never
can
mind.
dick measure all
I would
day.
say my dick's bigger than your dick.
All right, never mind. This show's over. Sorry, guys.
Fully
Oh, please,
edited.
please like and subscribe if you want more Star Wars news from a bunch of Star Wars nerds.
Ba-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba.